Welcome to On the Table, a podcast about board games, card games, and tabletop war games.
Hey, it's Chase from On the Table Gaming, and welcome back to episode 100 of the On the Table Gaming podcast. And I'm joined by my co-host, Josh. Josh, welcome back.
Hello, Chase. How's it going? Hello, audience.
It's been a while. I'm so excited to get back here connecting over voice.
I know I've been in hiding for the last year or so, but interested to talk about some of this new stuff that's coming down the pipe.
So we started the podcast together. You know, it's in maybe 2018, I think. So it's been a while. We've been running things for a bit, and you know, this is how it all began. So I thought, what more fitting than for episode 100 to kind of go back to the roots and bring the band back together here.
Yeah, this is episode 100.
Well, technically we're like in the 130s because we did a bunch of other things, you know, and for people who are asking, I did last episode was like 99.5 and they were like, oh, are you saving things for an episode 100? I do have something special planned and it's not ready. And we missed the last 2 weeks because I've been working on this much bigger project. I've got some really cool things in the work. And I realized, you know, I can't just hold everything forever. So we're going to have a really fun episode here. And don't worry, guys, we have a lot of cool stuff coming down the line in the future.
I was going to say, episode 100, that is nuts.
It's pretty crazy. It's been surreal. And this is like a thing we just started being like, you know what? Like, we really enjoy this A Song of Ice and Fire game. Like, let's just talk about our journey and like learning how to play.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's like one of those things where I think we just wanted other people to talk about the game. You know, we were just sort of like, it was just you and me texting furiously back and forth. And like, I always look for a podcast whenever I get into a game because it's just cool to like hear what people are talking about. And there wasn't one. We were like, this feels like something we should talk about.
It felt like do or die in the beginning where it was like, is this game going to make it? Like, where we're like, we want people to play this game. So like, how do we just like spread the word as much as possible?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think that's no longer a question at all.
Yeah, I mean, think about back then. It was like literally just the Kickstarter, and then you know the Kickstarter stuff released in retail, and we're like, okay, you know,
Can we go down like a blast down memory lane here? I always bring this up, but remember when like Night's Watch released?
Oh yeah,
it was like so much time, and it was delayed a month, I think. And people were like, "Is this game gonna die? This unit has been delayed 4 weeks."
But then we went to PAX and it was sold out before we even got there.
That was crazy. Yeah. Oh, they were selling it like before the doors opened. It was just anyhow.
I kind of wanted to grab the demo copy, but they wouldn't let me.
I know. Who knows? Maybe. But we've got a lot of cool stuff coming up here, and let's go do a throwback here. It's been a while since we've both been on, and you know what? I those who are longtime listeners, you know, that segment of A Song of Ice and Fire News, the rookery where we go up and check on the Ravens. It's been maybe like 18, 19 months since we've done that. I'm really worried about these birds. Let's go see what's up there. Okay.
That's the sound effect of the steps. Is that what that?
Opening that door, and we got a few things to talk about here. So we are in the calm before the storm. So the Greyjoys are starting to land and be deployed across the world, and so we're going to be getting our hands on those soon. We're really excited. Mm-hmm. And we got a lot of some other units coming out on the horizon. And it looks like, don't hold us to this, but it's some of the numbers that we've been seeing thrown out there. People have said the Asmodee USA release date. It seems like May 21st is going to be a big day where there might be like 9 or something units coming out on around that time. So, whether it's exactly that day or it's a little bit later or earlier, I don't want to give hopes up here, but we've got the War Mammoths, the Stormcoat Dervishes, the Unsullied Pikemen, Mother of Dragons, the Stag Knights. We've got the Hedge Knights, Freedmen, Baratheon's Queensmen, and the Roller Lightbringers. Those are all scheduled. So, I mean, it's getting pretty inundated with units here.
Oh, yeah. And just saying, Chase, my birthday is in May. So if you want to,
well, guess what? You're in luck, my friend, and I know exactly what to get you.
Yeah, it feels good that like we've got I think the whole world is starting to slowly like feel a little bit closer to normal, and like this is just a small piece of that. Is like, oh my God, we're getting new stuff, and it's like we've got some momentum building again. It's pretty awesome.
Are there any units that you're looking forward to getting in particular?
So for me, I mean, I think technically they already released, but I haven't been able to find a copy since they came out. Is I need to buy an entire force of Rose Knights.
Oh, jeez. Oh, God.
It's the most ruthless sort of army, but when we played it on Tabletop Simulator, it's the perfect kind of obnoxious that I love. It's just just slowly picking at you and just dealing wounds whenever I'm healing and just kind of restoring my guys and hitting you back, and it's so fun and obnoxious for the opponent to deal with. I just need a lot of those guys.
Well, for me, I am really looking forward to the mammoths. I think that's what I'm looking forward the most. And Duncan Rhodes just put up on maybe a couple of weeks ago up on his painting academy site, a tutorial on how to paint them. And I really like his approach to it. So, that's something I've been a member for a while. If people are looking to check stuff out, Duncan Rhodes and Mike Meeple are kind of like my go-to guys for that. Also, because, you can also harass them. Duncan Rhodes has like a forum where you can be like, help, like I need more advice on this. And Mike Meeple, I can just reach out to. He's got a cool Patreon group. But, mammoths, I just, they look so cool as a miniature. And I'm excited to get my hands on a big stinking mammoth that I can go crush Baratheons with.
You might be able to.
I might be able to. We'll have to put it to a test. I think.
I think it's cool. I think it's good though. Just whenever you can have an opportunity to add a unit to the table, that's just a big thing. I think that's awesome.
And it's cool to have like units too when people are walking by, like, what you playing? They're like, whoa, like, what is that? And it's like, it's a mammoth. It's pretty amazing. But the other cool thing is the Greyjoys, and I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on that starter set and getting some games into there, because in some ways I feel like that kind of like as we hurt you we get better, and we kind of like drag you down, and although we're not like super heavily armored, that kind of is like a little bit of that like free folk fantasy, I think, to me. So I feel like there might be some play style elements that I really like there, even if maybe they look amazing, but I think maybe overall the aesthetic of the free folk maybe speaks to me more. But the Greyjoy look fantastic, so that's something I'm definitely gonna be playing as like an off faction.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's anytime a new faction comes out, that's like one of the most exciting times, because you're playing with a whole new deck, you're playing with a whole new army. Like you're gonna mix and match your units and start figuring out like what you like about them, because it's always one thing to theory craft, but then when you actually like play them on a tabletop, it's like then you start to go, oh, I get it.
And so, so much of this stuff is coming out. So these next couple, months are going to be amazing. Plus, where we are, vaccine rollout is going really well. And so, we'll be able to play some games with each other soon. And it's been like 15 months? Like we haven't had physical miniatures like on the table in so long. I don't think I've ever gotten a chance to put my skin changers actually on the table physically. I haven't played like a physical game with them. So
right.
I'm excited.
We played them in Tabletop Simulator, but I have not seen your actual models.
Yeah, so just finally get a chance to get those going. So, I mean, we're getting close. Some other interesting things, though. This isn't, we got all this stuff coming in. It might be getting lost in the shuffle here, but somebody brought up to me, as we're starting to see these other units coming out, there's a guy, Barrick the Brick, who's a great guy in the Discord, one of our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. But he maintains a spreadsheet of like units that like when they get mentioned, or dropped in some way, whether it's on like someone's like distribution list or whether it's an officially announced one from CMon or something that like the game developer hints at. And on the we had some news about the Mormont She-Bears, and I said, hey, I think the Mormont She-Bears, they might be the last unit that was depicted in the original deluxe rulebook, like the Artbook. I think almost every other picture has been accounted for. And somebody messaged me and was like, hey man, no, you're totally messing up. On page 131, there's a Night's Watch riding on a horse with a sword, and it's not one of those the Ranger trackers. It looks like it's a something else. And so I'm is it a Watch Marshal? Is it not? And so I was looking at this spreadsheet that Barrick made, and he has this unit on here, the Ranger Vanguard, that I think were revealed in a distribution list. And so I'm wondering, is that image on page 131 of this Night's Watch on a horse, is that potentially the Ranger Vanguard? Might we have like another mounted unit for the Night's Watch?
It feels like they could use one, right? Because they've got, the trackers are really more of like a harassment unit, but like a true like cavalry melee unit, they don't really have that. So it's interesting. I think that's something they could definitely take advantage of, is having a dedicated cavalry unit. And that seems like, based on the art, that definitely looks like that's what that could be. I mean, who knows, right?
I wonder if, because the big thing people are saying is like, could it be that? And I thought maybe instead it might be like the, what's it called? The Watch Marshal, like but that might not be the case. So, I really wonder, and, we'll see, but, could this be the fabled last image in the art book? And so because of that, I like flipped through the art book, like looking at like every single image, and it could be like, there are some variants of units. Like, here's what the veterans could have looked like, or things like that. And so it might just be a variant image of the Ranger tracker. But I think everything else now we can say has been accounted for. And so that's kind of crazy too, because, the art book came out, several years ago. And to me, it's sort of like symbolic of like the game. I remember when we originally talked, and you remember the whole like fiasco of them. I think Michael Chanel said like, yeah, there's going to be like 9 factions or something, or there's the potential to be 9 factions, and he's been taking it back ever since, being like, I never said only, I said there would be, so we are, we might have more factions or less, but this is something that was maybe designed out at the start of the game. And we might be getting towards the end of that like original cycle, right? Like, I wonder how many units they plan out at the start. And then, we're 3 years in, are we getting into like a new wave of new content?
I feel like it's totally possible, right? And what's interesting is, they're going to have a chance to like take a look at also like the effects of, the 2.0, right? Like all the changes that they're making to the game, to the decks, and who knows how that's going to affect the units we've already got, but also maybe what's coming down the pipe, right? Obviously, they already have been playtesting those new rules probably for a long time now. So I'm sure cooking up some new stuff that's going to also fit really nicely into this new meta.
Yeah, and it's always fun when you see these tweaks. The 2020 update, I think people have had various like opinions on like how big of a shakeup it is.
Yeah,
they're really not changing that many core rules of the game, and so I know the developers see it more as like we made like an overpass. We cleaned up all units, and it seems like a lot because like every unit got touched. But I feel like when they often talk about it, they're still looking at it as like, this isn't as big an update as everyone seems to think it is. Now, unfortunately, because of the way it's kind of being rolled out, right, during a global pandemic, there's been all sorts of excitement and challenges. It's definitely gotten hyped up, and it's been hyped a lot, right? We spent maybe 16 weeks talking on it here as we're waiting for it to come. And, there's been ships stuck in canals, and there's been all sorts of fun stuff, regardless of whether it's the biggest thing ever or just minor changes. I think once we get it in our hands and get to play with it, like, it'd just be fun going back to playing.
I agree. I mean, even if we don't get anything new, it'll be nice to just get all our stuff on the table again, because it's been such a long time. cmon's not the only one who's had distribution problems. I mean, I don't know if anybody's tried to buy PlayStation 5. Someone's a pretty big company with a pretty big supply chain, and they're not able to get it done.
I know. The same thing with like Legion, which is like my other really big game. A lot of delays there, and people freaking out. Is this the end of Legion? It's like, guys, we're going to be okay. Like a lot of these miniature games, we're all in the same boat, and it stinks when like the majority of the games you play are all like having things delayed. And it's been a challenging year.
I think you can tell a game starting to die when the company completely stops talking about it, right? Like if you look at something like Rune Wars, it's like FFG like completely stopped talking about it for months, and then they were like, oh, by the way, we're not doing anything with this anymore.
Yeah,
I think at the very least, CMON has shown not only are they talking about the game, but they're actively releasing new factions, and I don't think a company is going to be expanding on a product line that's failing, right? So. Right. I'm not overly concerned. I mean, obviously it's bad for business if they're not able to sell stuff, right? But the fact that they've been like sold out of a lot of these things for a long time, and they just don't have product on shelves, that's a good sign. It means that there's still interest there.
I think we got like 15 units coming out in the next like 6 weeks. So I feel like that's not a dead game.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, there's so much still to come, and I mean, like it's going to be so exciting because my Baratheons definitely could use some help. My starter set plus 1 box of Stag Knights is not quite getting it done anymore. So. Or sorry, Champions of the Stag, not Stag. I would never buy a separate box of Stag Knights.
Well, hey, these new ones coming out are going to be pretty fancy. So you're going to get to reshuffle the whole Baratheon approach and see what they all come out as.
They could use a reshuffle for sure. They're tough to play. But yeah, I think they've got some good stuff now, and with the other stuff that's coming down, I think it's pretty exciting.
besides being excited to get back to play with you, we've maybe talked about going up towards Massachusetts a little bit, driving around and maybe getting some outside games or trying to connect with people and play some socially distanced games as we are vaccinated. I'm waiting on my wife to get her second shot so that I can really be comfortable about it. But I think we'll be back, when all this stuff drops, I think we'll be in a prime spot to get back to playing.
Finally. Yeah. It's, I was lucky enough that I got the Johnson & Johnson. So that was, kind of one and done, which is nice. And then I actually got to play a game on a tabletop with my buddy who was also vaccinated, and we had waited the 2 weeks and everything. And then it was nice. It was nice just to like kind of move stuff around on a board, for a change. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so, overall, like how was the gap? How's the gap been treating you? Like, it's been a while since we've gotten to play in person. What have you been up to?
I mean, it's interesting because I've definitely because you can't really play. I mean, we did a little bit of Tabletop Simulator, but that's not quite as convenient as to me. It's like it's close, but it's not the same as actually playing on a board, right?
Yeah.
I think so. Mainly, what I've been focusing on is just hobby stuff, and I've dabbled in some other games. I did play a little bit of Magic Online. They have a good Spell Table is a great remote app for playing Commander remote with other people around the world. So that's been really cool. But other than that, I've actually started. I started with Kill Team, which apparently is like that's like your first hit of crack, right? That's the little taste.
That's when he knew he messed up.
And then you're like, oh, okay. And then you start to think like, well, I'll just get another batch of guys. I only need like a squad, so I'll just buy like a box or whatever. And so I ended up with like 6 kill teams. I played like twice, right? But I just kept building and painting because it was so fun. And then I ended up going like, I should probably buy like a dreadnought. That'd be kind of cool. And then I ended up buying like a dreadnought and then another dreadnought and then a tank. And then I was like, okay, now I have a 40K army. I played one game ever, but it was like super fun to like build and paint that and kind of get back into like that was a childhood hobby of mine was collecting Ultramarines. But it's been really fun to like check out the lore again and kind of get my toe back into that world.
Yeah, I'll have to dig out. I've got some old second edition 40K stuff where like the bolters he pushes into the chest like really horribly shaped Marines.
Oh yeah.
I think we got enough to play some games with that. So that'll be fun. I haven't, it's been since I was in, middle school, high school, I think, since I played 40K. So that would be cool to do some games of.
The game is definitely a lot cleaner these days, I think, than back in those days. But I will say, compared to A Song of Ice, I will say this, A Song of Ice and Fire, having played that and then playing other games, the rule set is so much more streamlined than any of these other games that I've been dabbling with, because it's just everything's on the cards. The rule book is like 30 pages long. It's there's not a lot of like really weird specific rules unless it's like a unit specific rule. So I think it's one of those things where like I'm like, wow, they really did do a good job with keeping the game
right
pretty straightforward.
And I think I just went on another podcast, 3 Men in a Wargaming, great guys, and they wanted me to kind of pitch them A Song of Ice and Fire. And I think that's the great appeal, is that you can pick it up so easily. And it can be kind of like a lifestyle game where you really dive into, but it doesn't have to be. And like A Song of Ice and Fire can be a great like side game. If you're really into 40K, like buy a starter box of A Song of Ice and Fire and just like jump in. Or, make this your main thing, and you might end up with a couple armies.
It's funny. I mean, it's one of the things where it's like they all kind of scratch different itches, right? Like if you're looking for a rank and flank type game that's got like a really sort of tight rule set and like the cards and a really great theme. At a great price point, I would say, Song of Ice and Fire is really, really good. And then if you want something that's, there's a little more of a hobby aspect of it because you're doing more of the building and stuff, and you want to have like more like skirmish style, you've got options for that too. So I like to kind of like try out different stuff that's, not necessarily covering the same ground.
So the other game I've been checking out is Marvel Crisis Protocol. And that's a game that I've only played like maybe 5 games of ever, but I've got a bunch of miniatures now for it. And it's just really, it's a fun game. I know people like to play it competitively, but I see it kind of more as like a fun get together and have a fun, like thematic, crazy battle. Maybe I'll get more to the competitive side of it, but that might be a fun one for us to check out as well. And especially like I realized how much I enjoy during this pandemic time, having games with like the strong IP. And I think I'm often drawn to those sorts of games. Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire. Star Wars Legion, people that know me, that's probably like my main game I play. That was the one I was most competitive in, and love watching the Star Wars films and like, oh, Mandalorian, cool. Like, I wonder if that unit will make it in. Not the other. We won't talk about the other. We won't talk about the other Star Wars movies, but some of the new stuff they've come out with is pretty great. And
you didn't like Solo?
Oh man, he's Solo. We'll call you Han Solo. I was like, did they need to explain that? Like, that's an episode for another time.
Yeah.
And then Marvel Crisis Protocol, like, watching some of the Marvel stuff, I thought the WandaVision and Falcon the Winter Soldier were great. Really, it was really helpful to have that sort of serialized entertainment over this period. So, playing a game where you can be like, I want to get this cool character that I really like, I've really enjoyed just even collecting them. So that would be a fun one to maybe play. And then you've been looking at some historicals as well, right?
Yeah. I watched Saving Private Ryan one of these days on Netflix, and then I've been watching these YouTube videos. This guy, the Armchair Historian, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He does like these little like cartoon YouTube videos of like historical events. And I was just like, I found myself just watching a ton of World War II stuff, which I've always had a passing interest in. And so it's kind of like Bolt Action caught my eye, and I was like, it was kind of cool and really cheap, which are two things I appreciate. So I was just like, let me just check out that starter set, and so I just picked up the Band of Brothers starter set, which is on Amazon at like $80 or something, and then I just got like a little crew of Germans and Americans, and started painting them up, and it's been super fun. So now I bought a Sherman tank and a Tiger tank, and some more German paratroopers, but we'll see where this one takes me.
That can be hard, though, with some of the historical games. I've been really looking at some. People may have known in the past, I talked about picking up some Napoleonics. I've got some French linemen, and it's a little bit hard, like jumping into games that have like really long and complicated rule sets. I'm so used to like a Song of Ice and Fire, where I could like sit down and like, in 15, 20 minutes or less, like read through the Song of Ice and Fire rule book and be like, oh yeah, I get how to play. And I don't really necessarily have to reference the rule book a lot. And then some other books where I'm like, this is a 300-page rule book. Like, okay.
Yeah. Bolt Action is definitely somewhere in the middle of that, because I think like the basic rules are pretty tight. But then there's a lot of like, stuff that they do for the sake of realism. Like if you're calling in an airstrike, it's like a 17-step process.
Right.
Like, this is insanely complicated.
But I bet once you know how to do it, then it's like, it's really cool. And you're like, oh, wow.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I do like, one of the things I like most about it is the activation system, because you have a bag of dice where, essentially you have like however many units you have, that's how many dice you have in the bag, and the other side is the same bag. So you reach in and you pull out a dice, you don't know if it's going to be your go or my go in the turn. Mm-hmm. So I might get to go 3 times in a row, but then that means towards the end of the turn, you'll get to go over and over again.
Gotcha.
So it's just like sort of push-pull, where similar to like Memoir 44, which is another great World War II game, you have this thing where there's like this fog of war sort of effect that's just baked right into the DNA of the game, where I don't know if I'm going to be able to activate my most critical thing, right? So it adds a lot of tension to the game.
No, I think that's really cool. That's been something that's been kind of whispering in my ear. So now that you've got some stuff, maybe we'll test it out. Over the year, I did take some time to set up an area so we can film a little bit more stuff, get some actual like gameplay videos going. I've been focusing a lot this past year, since I couldn't see people use my miniatures, on the graphical side of things. So I think I'm ready with that. I've learned so much. Going from like 0 to like being able to do a little bit more. I've actually, and I'm maybe a spoiler, but I'll talk about this more in the future, but I'm actually working for 2 companies now, gaming companies, helping them out with videos. You saw a little bit of a dip in my videos this month, because I was trying to find that proper work balance, et cetera. But there'll be some cool things there, and getting to meet new people in the industry, and I'm hoping I can have some cool guests on, and that's been really fun. So now I really want to focus on like, learning how to use the camera better, because it's mostly been Premiere, After Effects, and those sorts of things. But always learning, and that's been a fun kind of side part of the hobby for me.
Yeah, I mean, content production is its own art. There's so much to do there, and there's so many different levels of production, and like what's the right way to do it. I've seen so many different content producers, especially when it comes to like battle reports, right? Like in the 40K world, you have something like Tabletop Tactics, where it's guys like literally just like hold a camera and it's like film the other person's whole turn, and like there's very minimal editing, right, in sort of the beginning and end, right? Or you do something like 40K in 40 minutes, which are really great, where it's like these guys like a full blown like movie almost. Like they have like constant editing and sound effects and like special effects, and like stuff is really cool. But
I think that appeals to me more, but I'm not at that skill level. But people watching you may see us taking some some risks and trying some new things out, right? Because this is just like this is what we do for fun. It's hobby. This isn't our. I have no illusions. I am not some crazy, massive content creator person. This is like what we're doing for fun. And thank you so much to everyone who has helped support us or tuned in to help encourage us to keep making stuff or to ask questions, or we're happy to help people get their channel started because we're sharing the things that we love to do.
100%. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that's what's great about, I think what the great thing about content creation in general is just there's so much just love of the game and love of the hobby that sometimes especially when you get to like the really competitive side of things, there's all this like, min-maxing and this unit's overpowered or this game is broken or blah, blah, blah. Like for every game I've ever played.
Yeah.
But then content production is really more about just like, we all like the same thing. And it's fun,
right.
It's fun to talk about. That's as simple as that.
I mean, that's the point, right? If you're hoping that somebody finds your stuff and they take a look at it and they're like, wow, this is fun. I want to have fun like this too, right? This is like the extension of me being at a gaming store and being like, come check out this game. Like, it's so cool. Like, I want to share my enthusiasm.
That's 100% how I found a lot of the games I played. Like, I played Magic again because I saw, Command Zone. I played 40K again because I saw 40K in 40 minutes. Like, those content creators, like, who have this, like, really interesting, like, these interesting videos that play well and, like, highlight why the game is so interesting. Like it's infectious and it makes you want to get involved. So it totally is, it's fun to just share that with other people, tell them why you think it's so exciting. I really liked Sunday Slaughter's videos. That guy, I watched a bunch of his stuff recently. And it's kind of like living vicariously through them playing on the tabletop. And
right. Yeah, and Chris is good people too, and that's the nice thing. I know a lot of content creators have dropped off over this year, but I think we're starting to see people start coming back, and we're going to see a lot more. And I think A Song of Ice and Fire is getting to that point where soon it will be kind of inundated. I think it's kind of hitting a new level of interest. We're seeing really what's important is a lot of these bigger content creators, and we're trying to reach out. And I know people like Duncan Rhodes have been great for like championing the game. Ash from Guerrilla Miniatures Games was always great about it. And we want to really be reaching out to getting some of those big guys to come in here and start shining some more light on this game, because I think the game, it sells itself, right? And you play and you'll jump in.
Yeah, I thought it was great when Team Covenant jumped on there. That was another pair that I really like their stuff, and like they got it on the show and really highlighted some of the awesome stuff about that's unique about Song of Ice and Fire, right?
Absolutely. Well, it was kind of just good to get on here and catch up a bit. It's been a long time. I know we were a little bit late on this episode. Like I said, we do have some cool things coming in the project, and we got a lot of things in the work here at On the Table Gaming. But in the end, it really comes down to getting to share our love of the game and games in general. And thank you to everyone who tunes in, weekly or whenever you get a chance to give a listen. And, definitely stay tuned. For Patreon supporters, make sure you check out our most recent posts. We do have, we made some merch. I'm not always great about like self-advertising or that sort of stuff. We kind of just like do our own thing here. But if you want to pick up a cool On the Table Gaming Tactics tee, we'll have those available through Teespring. And then if you're on the $15 pledge month, you can get a t-shirt as well sent out to you. So make sure you fill out the form for that. And, thanks to everyone who's been listening. We do have some big things coming down the line for the podcast. We'll do some more like casual conversation chats like this. We'll obviously be covering A Song of Ice and Fire, the Miniatures Games 2021 update. We've got some faction experts. We'll be going back and doing relooks at some of our really old, at this point, like how to play, what to buy, how you do the factions. Josh, I think you and I did most of those back in the day. We'd had some good guests, but we might need to revisit that as well. How do you get started with this? And then I think we'll be focusing a lot on like building communities.
Yeah, and I definitely want to get a campaign together. I want to get some XP and spend it on abilities, and have my little hero units running around the table, because that's also a really fun way to play.
100%. And we'll be checking out some other games along the way. I will certainly let people know how my first bolt action game with Josh goes. And I'm excited to get my LAAT, my little flying patrol vehicle for Star Wars Legion, have a little bit of aerial units. So I'm sure there'll be some Star Wars stuff as well. But thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you next week. And in the meantime, hope you get your miniatures on the table.